Welcome to No Broken Legs. I am your host, Evan Belfiore, and it is the first weekend of the NFL season. And you know what that means? That means Jimmy Champ is in the house to help you find the winning bets for this weekend. Jimmy, thank you for joining me on this Saturday afternoon.
Oh, no place I'd rather be, brother. Can't wait to get into these games.
Yeah, and we do have one game in the books that was a week ago shocking, but I think as we got closer to game time, I felt like this game was going to be a lot closer than we thought. I don't know how you felt coming into this game, Jimmy, but Detroit gets a win. Everybody's making a big deal about it. I feel like Kansas City's receivers basically dropped this game. I don't know how you feel about it. What did you think about that game?
No, I feel exactly the same as I did when I predicted KC would win by 3 touchdowns, because if that was Travis Kelce and not Kadarius Toney, he might have had 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. So
yeah, making the pick before that Travis Kelce news came out was a big difference. It does give me pause looking at the season as a whole that Kansas City's receivers played so poorly.
Yeah.
We saw in the Super Bowl against Tampa where Patrick Mahomes was just making ridiculous plays and putting the ball somewhere near his receivers where they could make a play, and they weren't. And he can't also catch the ball. That pick six, totally not his fault. That's totally on Kadarius Toney. The ball hits him right in the fucking hands, and he just. I am a little worried about their receiving core, especially if Kelce's going to be having injury problems this year. He's the linchpin of what they do, and if the other guys can't be counted on to make plays, I'm a slightly worried about Kansas City moving forward. But we'll see if they can get their shit together as they progress through the season.
Yeah, I think there's probably moves that they can make with defensive depth and draft capital to maybe bring in a wide receiver if they need to. But I agree with you, and this wasn't like Patrick Mahomes expecting guys to make great plays. I totally agree with you. He was hitting guys right in the hand in strides, and they were just dropping passes. It's just unacceptable for what the Chiefs are expecting to do, what their goals are for the season. Those guys got to get better. You want to believe they'll be able to, but I don't know. I mean, it was pretty ugly. Like there were that pass after they got the turnover on 4th down. I mean, Kadarius Toney couldn't have been more wide open. He couldn't have thrown a better ball. And for him to just drop that pass, you could tell that threw off the entire end of the game sequence for them. So, but there's some moves I think they can make, or it is week 1. Maybe guys will get a little better.
Yeah, that bird hanging out with you definitely agrees with that comment. He thinks Kadarius Toney is terrible.
He ain't wrong either.
And there is also the fact that Kadarius Toney is facing expectations this year. He did not perform well with the Giants, and we just assumed he would be good in Kansas City, and maybe there's some pressure there that's getting to him. Well, let's move on to the game that our audience will be caring about the most, the Cleveland Browns. They opened the season hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are 2-point road favorites. The money line is plus 130 for the Bengals, plus 110 for the Browns. The over-under is 47.5. The big news coming into this game is Joe Burrow just got his big new contract extension, Jimmy. He's, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it, the highest paid quarterback in the league now, although that seems to change randomly. The Bengals struggled out of the gate last year. They went 0-2, went on to win 13 games in the division. What do you see happening in this game on Sunday?
I think the Bengals really believe they have Super Bowl aspirations. And because of that, I'm going to trust them to be ready for this game. I'm actually going to take Cincinnati. I don't, everybody's told me that the reason Deshaun Watson played so poorly last year is because he didn't have enough live action yet. So there's no reason for me to believe that in week 1, he's going to be any better than he was at the end of last year. If the reason he was bad last year is because he needs more game time, more real live game time, there's no reason for me to believe this offseason would be different than last offseason. So I think it's going to be a couple weeks before Deshaun's ready to go. I think Burrow seems healthy with the new contract. They're mostly healthy as a team. So I think the Bengals are going to take this one.
All right. Well, we start out with a disagreement because I think the Browns are going to win this game. I expect them to be a little rusty, and I think Cincy feels like it can start slow and win the division because they just did it last year. I don't think this is a big game for them in their minds. I know they like to talk a lot of trash to the Browns, but the Browns have had their number recently. Joe Burrow does play a little worse against the Browns. Denzel Ward is going to play in this game, it seems. This is really a test of what I think of the Browns' new defensive line and what Cincinnati has done to try to improve their offensive line.
Yeah.
If the Browns really struggle to get pressure in this game, that is not going to bode well for the future of this season for the Browns, and I will definitely have to maybe make some adjustments in what I think about how this team is going to play this year, but I think their defensive line is going to look really good. Myles Garrett just has had a little mini career playing against the Bengals. He really owns them. Zadarius Smith is going to be on that line with Tomlinson and Garrett, and they should be able to win the upfront battle. On offense, I don't really know what to expect from this team. We keep hearing that, they've revamped the offense. It's a completely new offense. It's completely new, Jimmy. Every year they have a completely new offense that they put in that's tailor-made for their quarterback, even though every fucking year it looks like the same offense.
That's not tailor-made to the skills they have.
No. So that's something that's really important to keep an eye out for. I would expect a lot of 3 receiver sets with Njoku and Chubb as a single back. I think that fits their personnel better, and it's a good way to spread out the defense so that Chubb can have some running lanes and also be used as a receiver out of the backfield, which is supposedly something that's going to happen this year.
Yeah, I mean, to me, all of that sounds good, but I'm sorry. If Deshaun Watson looks like Deshaun Watson of last year, they can't beat Cincinnati. Cincinnati's too good of a team, and everybody's told me. Well, the reason he looked bad is because he hasn't played enough games. Well, he still hasn't played any more games.
Yeah, I would have liked to see him play a little more in the preseason. I don't know why he didn't get more work. This just falls into that same thing that we always talk about in basketball, and specifically Kawhi Leonard, but there's a lot of other guys like AD. If you can't play the sport that's your job without getting hurt, then how can you do your job?
Right.
I get it. It's preseason and those games don't matter, and you'd rather them get hurt in a game that matters than a game that doesn't matter. But if they're going to get hurt playing the game, they're going to get hurt playing the game.
Right. And I mean, I think it would have, especially with the way this front part of the season starts out, where you have some stackable wins, I think they should have had Deshaun play much more. I think you should have got him more comfortable. If that was the problem last year, was not enough game time, not enough snaps, he should have been playing more snaps. But I agree with you. I think I'd actually probably lean the under here. I don't think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. I'd probably really like the under, but I'm going to lean Cincinnati on this one till I see what this great new vamped offense looks like.
We talked about it when we talked about the NFC South, specifically with Carolina. It felt like we were saying a lot of teams had a lot of talent on defense, and it does seem like a lot of teams have a lot of talent on defense. So that overarching theme of offense versus defense, it does seem like defense is taking the reins back. And I think this is a good game to get a gauge on that, because I think both these teams have pretty solid defenses, and we know Cincinnati has a good offense, and we'll see what the Browns' offense looks like. I think they'll be pretty good, but if this game ends up being like 21-20, 24-20, that seems where this game's going to end, and that doesn't get you anywhere near the 47.5.
Yeah, but I think that's really close to what the number will be. I think you're in that 41 to 43 range with this one.
Let's move about an hour southeast, Jimmy, and talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are hosting the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners are 2.5-point road favorites. The money line is minus 140 for San Francisco, plus 118 for Pittsburgh. Over-under sits at 41.5. I feel like Vincini and the Princess Bride in this game, Jimmy. There's a lot of things that make me want to bet on both sides.
Yep.
Tomlin as a home dog is always a great play. He's got 13 outright wins in 22 games like that. On the other hand, Nicky Bosa just signed a big fat contract for San Francisco, and when he plays, their defense is incredible. I can also say the same thing about TJ Watt. On the other side, their defense is incredible when he plays. The Niners have weapons all over the field on offense. I don't know how much I trust Brock Purdy. I feel like Pittsburgh has some pretty good weapons, and I don't necessarily trust Kenny Pickett. How are you sorting all this out?
I agree with everything you said, but I think I have just a little bit more evidence with the 49ers, except for how good Tomlin is when he's a home dog, except for that piece of evidence. So I'm going to take the Niners here. I think they can get this one by a field goal. So I think they'll get the cover. I trust Purdy and his weapons just a little more than what I think Kenny Pickett might look like to start the season. And I agree with you. I just think Bosa elevates this defense to a level that if they get to that level, there's no way Kenny Pickett is going to be able to generate offense against them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think San Francisco can completely shut down Pittsburgh. I don't think Pittsburgh can completely shut down San Francisco. I do like the under on this one, even though it's at 41.5. That's a really low number, but this game looks like it's going to be a complete slugfest.
Yeah.
Up next, we have the Baltimore Ravens. They are hosting the Houston Texans and their brand new quarterback, C.J. Stroud. The Ravens are 9.5-point favorites, minus 110 on either side of that, plus 345 on the money line for Houston, minus 455 for the money line for the Ravens. Over/under sits at 43.5. I have a betting strategy for Houston, Indianapolis, and Tennessee with the rookie quarterbacks that I will begin employing this weekend. You can tell me what you think about this, Jimmy. I'm just going to be playing 2 and 3 team teases with Houston, Carolina, and Indianapolis to lose whoever they're playing all year long. We see it every year. Rookie quarterbacks struggle. They do have their ups sometimes, but they have a lot more downs. And this is a real field test of my hypothesis that defenses have really amped up to face guys like Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow, and that they're just going to swallow these rookie quarterbacks up. What are your thoughts on that betting strategy?
I like it. I actually like it a lot, except I do, as we talked about going through all the teams, I think C.J. Stroud is going to progress much faster than the other two. So I think Houston may actually be a somewhat competitive team as the season goes on. But I agree with you. Betting against Indy and Carolina, I think, is going to be easy money. And Houston just had they've put 2 offensive linemen this week that they were planning on starting on the IR. So Baltimore should win this game by 2 touchdowns. So there's nothing to get scared with the 9.5. And even if you have another line that you wish you could get a couple more points on, you could probably even tease this up to like 12 and I think still feel safe because I think they win by 2 touchdowns. So if you got somebody that's like 2.5, getting 2.5, but you'd like them to get 4, you might be able to work a tease in there.
Yeah, I like that strategy because I think Baltimore is going to run rampant in this game. These are the types of games that Baltimore just wins easily because they're a good football team and they have a good organization. These are the types of organizational wins you get.
And as of right now, they're healthy.
Yeah, as long as they're healthy, they should be really good. Up next, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. The Jags are 4.5-point favorites, minus 105 for them. On the Colts, it's minus 115, minus 225 on the money line, plus 185 for the Colts money line. Over/under sits at 46. Boy, oh boy, Jimmy, this line looks a little too low to me. Like Vegas is just begging us to bet on Jacksonville.
Yeah, they get what they want.
I'm not as confident in the 5. I do like Jacksonville to win this game. Like I said, I'll be doing some money line teases with them and Baltimore and Atlanta. I actually like the over in this game because I think Jacksonville is going to be able to score a lot of points. And I also like Indianapolis to score some points late because I think Anthony Richardson has the type of game that when you get into garbage time, he's going to look like an absolute beast.
I do not agree with that sentiment at all. I think by the 4th quarter of this game, he's going to be seeing Sam Darnold's ghosts out there.
I think he's going to run a lot. I don't think he's going to help him win, but I think especially late in the game when teams are playing more prevent, you'll see a lot more holes open up for running backs. You'll see a lot more holes open up for quarterbacks to run. I do think there's a problem that Indianapolis has, and it starts with Jonathan Taylor not being on the field.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where it comes down to, like, what running lanes is he going to have? There's nothing to worry about. They might play with 11 guys in the box. Like I just think this is the march. This is the first start of the march that Jacksonville needs to show everybody just how good they're going to be this year. And, you know, I had a real problem when Chris Ballard was talking about, you know, Jonathan Taylor. And he made the comment, well, you know, but we only won 4 games. You're right. You did only win 4 games. But you also didn't get embarrassed that much because Jonathan Taylor kept you in games you probably shouldn't have been in. You're going to get embarrassed week 1 against a divisional opponent. The Jaguars are going to mollywop you, and you're going to wish you had Jonathan Taylor back there just to try to move the chains a couple times. Like, I think this is going to be a beatdown from the Jags to the Colts.
That sounds an awful lot like what Browns fans said for a long time. Well, you know, you lose all those games with Joe Thomas at left tackle. What's the point? It's like, right. Well, you have to have good players in multiple positions to win, and I don't see how getting rid of talent makes you better.
Yeah.
And the way the owner has injected himself, Jim Irsay, into this whole thing, he's just being a cheap fucking billionaire. Like, that's all this is about. He doesn't want to share. He doesn't want to give any. He feels like he's giving away power or giving away a win. There's a lot of Trump vibes coming from Jim Irsay, including some of the crazy. It just, that organization looks like it may be heading in the wrong direction just in general because of their bad ownership. I can't imagine anybody's looking to fucking ball out when the best guy on the team is getting dicked around on his contract. That stuff does resonate through locker rooms. We've seen it here in Cleveland. It looks like it might be about to happen in Indianapolis. So more reasons to take Jacksonville. Also, really interested to see what Calvin Ridley looks like in this offense. And what do we see from Etienne? He didn't play much of last season, so it'll be just this team added a whole bunch of pieces, and they were already good, which is why we both like Jacksonville a lot.
Yes, sir.
Jacksonville's only competition in the AFC South is probably going to be Tennessee. Tennessee is traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. The Saints are 3-point favorites, plus 100 on -3. If you take the Titans at +3, it's -120. The money line is plus 130 for Tennessee, -155 for New Orleans. The over is 41.5. Jimmy, why is New Orleans favored in this game?
Because Ryan Tannehill's the quarterback on the other side.
Is Carr that much better?
Is Carr? I don't know if Carr's that much better, but
isn't Vrabel a better coach? I'm not saying that Carr's not better than Tannehill, but he's not more better than Tannehill than Vrabel is Dan Quinn.
So I agree. I agree with that, but I think New Orleans always plays better at home. Obviously Tennessee has DeAndre Hopkins, but I think Derek Carr.
Henry.
Well, I also think people are really starting to feel like this year's going to be the start of the downhill for Derrick Henry. So I think that's kind of why he's being faded in real life and in fantasy.
But that's an issue for like week 10. This is week 1. But he's super fresh.
Maybe. But I think Vegas expects Derek Carr to be able to use all of the weapons in New Orleans better than Ryan Tannehill on the road can use weapons that he's acquired. That's why I think New Orleans is the favorite.
Okay.
And I'm also taking New Orleans. I think New Orleans. I think it's probably a push because I think New Orleans wins this game by a field goal. But yeah, I'm going with the Saints here.
I'm going with the Titans. I like Mike Vrabel. I like Tennessee to be at least decent this year, and this is also a good early test of AFC versus NFC teams. Neither one of these teams we expect to be great, But Tennessee wins this game. It just goes to show that the AFC middle is also better than the NFC middle.
Yeah, and for Tennessee as well, actually for both of these teams, who are a lot of people think will be fighting for possible division championships, these are games they have to win.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You got to get those wins. You need those wins against common opponents just in case towards the end of the season things get real tight.
Up next, we have the Atlanta Falcons hosting the Carolina Panthers. The Falcons are 3.5-point favorites. If you take the Falcons with the points, it's minus 110. Carolina getting the 3.5 is also minus 110. On the money line, we see the Falcons at minus 190, the Panthers at plus 158, and the over-under sits at 40. Nobody thinks there's going to be a lot of points in this game with Bryce Young in his first start. I don't think anybody has a lot of faith in Ritter. Nobody has a lot of faith in Desmond Ritter. I like the Falcons this year, though. Everything I just said about Stroud and rookie quarterbacks can be said about Bryce Young. Neither one of us like Frank Reich that much. And I guess the only thing left here is I'm taking Atlanta. I like the over. And Bijan Robinson, sir, the stage is yours. Show us what you got.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I think you have to take Atlanta here. I think they're just I can't see a reason to take Carolina. But I think this is a good this is like a good starter game for Atlanta's offense to see what they're able to do with Bijan and Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Ritter on the field at the same time. So they should have plenty of opportunities to score. I do love the under here. I don't think there's going to be a lot of points scored, but I'm very curious to see what both of these teams look like. I think Atlanta is going to look far better than Carolina, but this is a game I'm going to want to try to catch a couple possessions of each way.
Atlanta ran that offense last year without the best personnel, and they have improved that on the offensive side of the board. So I think they're going to put some points up. They're zigging to everybody's zag with the focusing on running the football, and I think they can bully teams. They bullied teams last year. Why aren't they going to be able to do it this year? So I like the Falcons moving forward. They're my pick to win that division. The final team in the AFC South is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with our old buddy Baker Mayfield. They're starting out on the road in Minnesota. The Vikings are 5-point home favorites here. Plus 192 is the money line for the Buccaneers, minus 235 on the Vikings. Over-under sits at 45.5. Jimmy, what are you looking at in this game?
I'm going to take the Vikings. They should win this by a touchdown. I think this is a good like ease into the season for the Vikings. They don't get a primetime game to start. They don't have a real big opponent. So the offense should come out clicking and firing. For Dalvin Cook fantasy owners over the last 5 years, plenty of us have wondered how good is Alexander Mattison. Now we get to find out. So I'm definitely taking the Vikings here. I think they're just too good of a team for Tampa Bay to get a win over.
Yeah, I agree. Minnesota's still pretty good. They're not great, but they're good. They are at home. I think they ruin Baker's Tampa debut, especially with Mike Evans not playing and in a contract dispute. I wonder if Evans knows they're going to be bad and he doesn't want this affecting his contract. That's what I think a lot of people think this team's going to be awful. Does he know something we don't because he's in practice? I don't know. Maybe he's just getting ready to enter his 10th season and he wants to make sure he gets paid before he hits 30. So that could be part of that too. Regardless, I don't have a lot. I already regret taking the over for Tampa. Just the more I think about it, the more I think this team's probably not going to be very good. And if Minnesota ends up winning this game by like 2 touchdowns, oh boy, things could fall apart pretty quickly in Tampa.
Well, yeah, but I think Minnesota's a lot better than a lot of teams that they get to play.
Oh, that is also a good point.
So
our next matchup is the last of the 1 o'clock games. The Washington Armada are home. They are taking on the Arizona Cardinals. The spread is 7. The money line is Arizona plus 250, Washington minus 320. Over-under sits at 38, which tells you how good everybody thinks Arizona's offense is going to be with Josh Dobbs, or the guy I don't even know his name. The way I'm approaching this game, Jimmy, is if you're Washington, you better be 7 points better than Arizona at home.
Yeah, that's fair. This is about as lockable as a lock gets. Washington gets to start the season with a win. I think if there's gonna be a week where Sam Howell looks like a starting NFL quarterback, it'll be this one. I don't know how Arizona's gonna score points or stop anybody else from scoring points. I think Washington's gonna be able to get whatever they want, and the offense should look really, really good under Eric Bieniemy in his Week 1 debut as their OC and probably pending head coach. So.
Arizona I think is more actively and more openly trying to lose than the Browns were when they went 1-31.
Yeah, absolutely.
Up next, we have a huge AFC matchup between the LA Chargers and the Miami Dolphins. The Chargers are, quote, home, unquote, and they are 3-point favorites. Miami is plus 140 on the money line. The Chargers are minus 165. Over-under sits at 51. This is another trend I want to keep an eye on as the season goes, Jimmy, is what do point spreads look like for the Chargers at home? In this game, they're getting the traditional home 3, but we all know that traditional home 3 does not apply to this team. So it feels like we're getting an extra point that we shouldn't for Miami. So I'll take Miami. I think they keep it close, and I think they strike first in these AFC seeding wars. Who do you like in this game?
I'm gonna go the exact opposite. I like the Chargers here. This is Week 1. The Chargers defense is healthy. They should look really good. I've got no reason to believe the Dolphins offensive line has gotten any better during the preseason. So yeah, I think the Chargers. I think they'll do enough defensively to be able to win this game by maybe 2 field goal and a touchdown, something like that. So I'm good with taking the Chargers here. And they start their march to a playoff victory this year.
Ooh. I like Vic Fangio on the defense for Miami, and I'm really interested to see, do they find another level than they had last year? Because they were solid last year.
Yeah, they were solid last year.
If they can find another level with those weapons on offense, they could be really dangerous.
Yeah.
Up next is a game I don't know what to do with here, Jimmy. So Philadelphia is going on the road to New England to take on the Patriots. The Eagles are favored by 4, minus 195 for their money line, plus 162 for New England. Over-under sits at 44.5. This is another one that made my spidey sense tingle. It feels like a line that is just way too low for how good Philly is on the defensive line and how many weapons they have on offense. But Bill Belichick at home, man. I feel like everything we said about Tomlin can be said about Bill Belichick here. So help me figure this one out, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what you're struggling with here, bud. The doubts I have about San Francisco, I do not have about Philadelphia. They are going to make Mac Jones's life a living hell for 60 minutes. I think Philly wins this game by 2 scores easy. I agree the line seems low, but I mean we're always going to have that New England Northeast bias, so we're going to take advantage of it when we can. I think Philadelphia dominates this game on both sides of the ball.
That could be another trend to look at early in the season. I think people think New England's offense will be a lot better because they actually have an offensive coordinator, which isn't out of the question, but their lack of weapons is definitely something that's a problem for them.
Yeah.
All right, I agree with you then. I'll take Philadelphia in this one. That defensive line should be able to stymie their run attack, and if they can't run the ball, that should really shut them down offensively.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the, much like Cleveland, I think Cleveland's defensive line and Philadelphia's defensive line are 2 of the specialized units I'm most excited to watch Week 1, because to add what could be a all-pro level talent to that defensive line, I mean, it could make them like in that all-time great defense conversation.
Yeah, especially because all those guys can rush the passer along with holding up in the run game.
Yep.
it takes away your ability to attack them in multiple ways. And that seems to be the offenses that are the most successful now are the ones that can attack you in a bunch of different ways.
Yep.
Our next matchup features offenses that don't really attack you in many different ways. It is the Denver Broncos hosting the Las Vegas Raiders. The Broncos are 3.5-point home favorites. The money line is minus 165 for the Broncos, plus 140 for the Raiders. Over-under sits at 43 points. I feel like this is a back-and-forth game that is decided by a last-second field goal, so I'll take Denver. I also think Vegas fades late in the high altitude. Honestly, both of these teams are pretty meh, and I would advise people to not bet either of these teams and find somewhere else to make your money.
Yeah, I don't see the line's still 3, right?
No, it's 3.5.
3.5. Oh, well, then I might have to take him. No,
that's why I'm taking
away.
I'm taking Vegas, even though I think Denver wins the game.
Yeah, I can see that now. Yeah, when I looked yesterday, it was 3. Whoa, that makes it. Ugh. Yeah,
or at least it's 3. It's 3.5 at Caesars. I'm sure it's 3 in some places. This feels like a game where this just feels like a game where Vegas is. It's like, I don't know, 21-20, and Denver hits a game-winning field goal or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
14-13, Denver wins 16-14.
Yeah, I think these are two poor teams, and they're going to have a poor game. Not a lot. I mean, I guess it would probably be interesting to see what the offense looks like under Sean Payton.
Yeah.
See how quick he tries to get Russell Wilson to play like the anti-Russell Wilson. We'll see what that looks like. So, but yeah, I'm going to stay away from this one. But for the purpose of the pod, I'm going to take Vegas. But I would stay away from this one at least until you see it, because there's a lot of unknowns going on here with Sean Payton and Jimmy Garoppolo. So,
absolutely. Our next matchup features the Seattle Seahawks hosting the LA Rams, or what's left of the LA Rams. The Seahawks are 5-point favorites right at the edge of the Vegas zone. They are also minus 225 on the money line. The Rams are plus 185 on the money line. Over-under sits at 46. I don't know. Everybody thinks the Rams are going to be awful, Jimmy. What do you think is going to happen? No Cooper Kupp. Can they keep this game close?
No. No, if Geno Smith can look like the Geno Smith from last year, then absolutely not. Seattle by a touchdown, so I'll take Seattle.
Yeah, I lean Seattle. I also like the under here.
Yeah, that's a good play, I think.
If people trusted Geno Smith more, this would be a 7-point line.
Yeah, that's fair.
So even though it's in the Vegas zone, I feel like it fell to the Vegas zone instead of being raised into the Vegas zone, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Our next game is another one I don't really know what to do with because I'm not a believer in either of these teams. We have the Chicago Bears hosting the Green Bay Packers. Bears are 1.5-point home favorites to start the season. Minus 125 for their money line, plus 105 for the Packers. 41.5 is the over-under now. I don't know, Jimmy. What should people do here? Justin Fields is great. I don't know what Jordan Love's going to look like, but I think the Packers' overall roster is better. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Packers' overall roster is good. So I'm gonna take the Packers. I think defensively, I think they've got a better chance to play up to their talent level this year. So I'm taking the Packers here. But I think this could be a really, really good football game. I'm just really curious to see what Jordan Love is going to look like and what Justin Fields is going to look like with a little bit of a revamped offense. So I think
there's a lot of tape out there. You know those division rivals spent the whole summer just watching everything that Justin Fields did, trying to find cracks in the armor there. And how much are they going to limit his ability to run, and how much does that affect his ability to throw the ball? Those are the two key questions there.
Yeah, I don't think you'll limit it at all. I think you let him. I think you let him go out, if Chicago believes they can make a jump from the 4 wins from last year up into maybe the playoff conversation in the NFC, which is only probably 3 games, maybe 4, which is a big swing. But to do that, you've got to win these games against teams like Green Bay. So they got to come out swinging. They got to come out with everything they got and let Justin Fields be the dynamic player he is on the field.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to watch. It's definitely a big game for betting trends moving forward.
Yeah.
We have 2 night games left. The Dallas Cowboys open in New Jersey to take on the New York Giants. The Dallas Cowboys are 3.5-point favorites. Money line -170 for Dallas, +143 for the Giants. 45 is the over-under. Jimmy, I have some strong opinions about this game, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
I think Dallas has to be a touchdown better than the Giants. I think if we know what their aspirations are, what they believe they're capable of, they have to be a touchdown better than the Giants. So I'm going to take Dallas here. I think I actually like the over in this one because I do think both of these offenses can move the ball and score points. And we know Danny Dimes works really well in garbage time. So I think Dallas may get up by a couple scores and the Giants may battle back. But I'm going to take Dallas here. I think they can get this one to a touchdown.
I can't believe I'm going to say these words, Jimmy, but
oh no,
I think people are sleeping on the Dallas Cowboys.
Wow, okay, yeah.
3.5 points. The Giants aren't a very good football team. And, oh, by the way, of the last 13 games that Dallas and New York have played, how many do you think Dallas has won?
12?
They are 12-1 in the last 13 games.
That's what I thought. I thought they had one loss there, but yeah.
Last year, they won by 8 and 7. The year before, they won by 15 and 24. One of those was a playoff game. The Giants started hot last year, and then everybody realized what was going on with their offense, well, except for the Minnesota Vikings, and they limited the ability of Daniel Jones to affect the game with his legs. And as soon as you do that, this Giants offense looks incredibly pedestrian. I don't think they've added the weapons to make it better. Dak Prescott takes a lot of shit for a quarterback that is better than – I'm not saying he's a top 5 guy. He's not a top 5 guy. But he's definitely a top 10 guy. Yeah. And you're going to win a lot of games as a top 10 guy. And you know who's not a top 10 guy? Fucking Daniel Jones.
And I think, I think where the problem with Dak comes in, and I think it comes back to that, to the generation of quarterbacks before these guys. Like I agree with you. Dak has got to be, I'd probably get Dak somewhere in there 9-10, somewhere in that range. But I think Dak's talent and his ceiling is way closer to those guys in the top 5 than those guys in the bottom 15.
Yeah, I think he's clearly better than the average guys.
Really good. Yeah, at times he can be really good. And I think, they've got the history on their side. Their defense is still really good. Their defense knows how to stop Daniel Jones.
Oh, yeah.
So, if you want to give me this at 3.5, that's fine. I'll happily take that one.
Turning to the Monday night affair that will also be in the Meadowlands in New York, we have the Buffalo Bills traveling to take on the Jets. The Bills are 2.5-point favorites, -145 for their money line, +122 for the Jets. Over-under sits at 45.5. Aaron Rodgers' debut under the lights versus Josh Allen. Jimmy, how do you think this is going to play out for him?
I think he's going to look okay, but I just don't think they're going to be able to beat Buffalo. I'm taking Buffalo here, but I do think offensively, I think they'll look okay. I don't think they're going to look like a train wreck. I think they'll move the ball, but I just don't think they're as good as Buffalo, which I don't think is an indictment on their total season or where they could possibly end up. But right now, to start the season, I do not think they can compete with Buffalo.
This line feels like stealing to me. Buffalo's still really good. They're 6-1 in their last 7 against the Jets. This should definitely be a defensive struggle because both of these two teams are so good on that side of the ball. I like the under for that reason. But I don't. This is I guess the first test of the Jets aren't as good as everybody says they're going to be. A lot of bettors in New York City with a lot of money that can affect lines by a point or two. And I wonder if what we're seeing with the Jets right now is a lot of what we've seen with public teams like the Cowboys in the past. The Jets are currently like a top 5. Oh, hold on. Let me just look it up. The Jets are currently the 7th best odds to win the Super Bowl. And I think that is just crazy talk because I don't think they're that good. I'm not even sure they're the 3rd best team in their own division.
Yeah, the 7th best odds, that is a little crazy. I don't really like that. But I do think they're going to be better than you think they're going to be. Well, but I don't really even think your problem's with you. I think your problem's with insufferable sports fans from the Northeast. But
are you saying I have an anti-New York bias?
Yes, 100%.
I'm just saying the media overhypes New York teams, and that is not a bias. That is a fact.
But yeah, I can't believe putting money on the Jets to beat Buffalo or cover that spread. I just can't understand it, but that's fine. It's about the 4th line that I've been like, okay, that's fine. You want to give me this win to start the season? Cool. That gives me chances to chase money lines in a couple weeks.
I also think it helps that Kansas City lost on Thursday because it gives a lot of these top teams that are playing teams that they might be overly confident about beating. It's like, okay, we got to show up. We see that happen a lot in college sports. You know, you'll see a lot of upsets on the same day, but when somebody gets upset on a Thursday game and then they hold off and wait and you get a couple of days to calm down, it's like, okay, we got to focus. You get your coaches in the locker room, they get 2 or 3 games where they're like, what, you want to be like the Chiefs? You want to be like the Chiefs, everybody making fun of them? Look how much everybody's trashing that team. And, you know, those guys don't want to hear that shit on Monday, so they're going to come out ready to play today. Well, that wraps it up, Jimmy. What are your final thoughts on week 1 here?
There's a couple, like, it's weird because I think there are a couple, like, really big marquee national games. Then, like, and it's weird because the Browns are playing in one of those games. Like, in my opinion.
Big division game to start the season for them.
I think the Browns and Bengals are a huge game to start the division. But I think I really like the way the schedule worked for week 1 because, like, it feels like in every single division, there's a game that's going to have implications 17 weeks from now. And I like that.
Yeah, that Chargers-Miami game is one that we're going to talk about
I agree.
In week 16 and 17 because that is the first battle in the AFC seeding wars. Right.
It's the first battle of those, like, of the second-tier AFC teams going against each other. And I absolutely agree with you. So I really like the way the schedule actually worked out. And there are a lot of moments that I'm excited to catch some red zone clips of. Like, for Atlanta, like, it'll be really weird because at the end of the Atlanta game, I think it's either going to be like, wow, look what that offense did, or damn, Bijan Robinson only had 70 yards against this team. Like, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really excited. I mean, we're always excited for week 1, but I think there's some really, really good football games this week to start the season. I think Pittsburgh, San Francisco may end up being one of the better week 1 games as well.
Agreed.
But, you know, the Browns and Bengals both have expectations that require them to win this game because I think the AFC and the AFC North have gotten so good, Cincinnati can't afford to go 0-2 to start the season. Like, I don't believe that.
I don't know. They did last year and they were fine. It's just that team's really good, and I think they carry themselves with some swagger, which is why I think the Browns have a good chance of winning this game. I think Cincinnati gets overconfident, and they can be had. The thing that I'm most interested to see is what are the unknowns that will reveal themselves this weekend. It's the first 3-4 weeks of the season always come with surprises. They always come with surprises for bettors. We saw it last year. We thought Seattle and Atlanta were going to be absolutely fucking terrible, and they made us look like fools. Damned fools they did. Or they made us look like fools, and damned fools we were about them. Are there any teams that we're overlooking this year? It doesn't look like it. I mean, we think Arizona and the Rams and Tampa Bay are going to be bad. We think the teams with rookie quarterbacks are going to be bad. Does one of these teams find a way to do what Atlanta and Seattle did last year and put themselves in the playoff conversation? And that'll play itself out over the first 2-3 weeks. We should also keep our eyes open for, I guess I'll just say, the Atlanta team that just all of a sudden comes out and just puts up like 5-6 covers to start the season. Because there always seems to be one or two teams that does that. And that was a big part of keeping myself above water last year, was just riding Atlanta for those last 4 weeks, I think, when they had like 6 or 7 covers in a row, which was just amazing.
Yeah. I think the Eagles are going to be that team that's going to be safe, because I think Vegas is going to be afraid to put the lines where they should actually be.
Well, that would be nice, because I would like to put money on Philadelphia. That team looks really, really good.
I really believe that. And I think of the teams you mentioned, I think Chicago and Tampa would be the two that would have the biggest chance of being more competitive than we think. For Tampa, it's just because Atlanta and New Orleans were really bad.
Yeah.
Like we know Carolina is going to be bad, but maybe Atlanta and New Orleans are pretty bad, and Tampa's a team that takes a step up. And, when I say it out loud that I believe Chicago is going to turn around and be a playoff team, it's crazy. But then I look at the roster and what I think they can be, and then I'm like, maybe it's not crazy. So I'm very, very interested in that Packers-Bears game. I think that's NFL fucking football week 1. Cheeseheads and the Bears going at it. Like, that's what we do this for. That's what we're here for. So
I would also recommend that our listeners don't overreact to what you see in week 1 or week 2. I know we just said keep your eyes open for the trends, but if you have an idea that a team's going to be something and they don't show it, like we thought Kansas City was going to be really good. No Chris Jones, no Travis Kelce. Let's not super overreact, especially when it was kind of a weird game. Kansas City couldn't catch the ball. I don't think Detroit's offense looked all that great.
No.
We all have an idea of what these teams are going to be. Vegas has an idea. We have an idea. And hopefully what we're looking for are places where Vegas and us differ in their ideas, but we're right.
Yeah. Yep.
And those bets are out there to make in the early part of the season, because by week 4, pretty much everybody has a good idea of what's going to happen with these teams. So try and find those inefficiencies. Don't panic. Bring a towel. And, hang out and watch some football.
There it is.
Yeah. Jimmy, week 1 picks are in the books. It's been a lot of fun, and let's see how we do to start the season.
Yeah, hopefully we can hit some good ones here week 1. And, if you guys listen to the pod, I really like to look for those those good money line bets. I really didn't feel like there were a lot out there this week, but probably after week 1, we'll be able to keep an eye on that, because maybe one of those teams that we think is going to be good gets housed in week 1. So that affects their line in week 2. And we're like, no, week 1 was the abnormalcy, not what's going to happen in week 2. And we might be able to jump on some really good money line bets there in week 2. Maybe we can get something in that plus 200 range to hit. So that's what we'll be looking for in week 2.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining me, Jimmy.
No place I'd rather be, brother.
And I want to thank all of you out there for listening. Good luck in your week 1 bets. For Jimmy Champ, I am Evan Belfiore, and we are no broken legs.